Hey everybody, welcome to the Diet Junkie Show. I'm doing a little bit different this time. We're going to be talking about emotional hunger. That's right, emotional hunger, not emotional eating, versus cravings, and also versus emotional eating, because they are not the same. So really this Diet Junkie Show is about bringing on and speaking about realness in relation to really just becoming mentally, physically, and emotionally strong and healthy so that you can look, feel, and show up in your day-to-day life as your best self. Very passionate about this, especially talking about mental health and how really this stuff, self-care, is the foundation for you really becoming all those things and feeling capable of showing up in your day-to-day life as your best self. So today we're going to be talking about emotional hunger, and I'm going to share my screen with you. This also is in your newsletter, so if you are not subscribed, make sure you go head over to www.tanyasilva.com, subscribe so that you get this in your inbox. And if you're not in the inbox and you want it, just go ahead and leave a comment in the comment box below. Let me know what you think. And also, if you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. If you're watching live, just say, hey, what's up? And I'll make sure I'll say hi back. All right, so let's go. I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. So, I love stories. Have you ever had a moment where you wanted to do some major damage? This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about emotional hunger, okay? So I'm specifically talking about like any self-control you thought you once had, maybe that willpower that you've been dependent on, that you've been working so hard to get those willpower muscles, that motivation, that you're just in that motivation vibe, that you just thought that you had, and then they're all overpowered by this intense, out of control, zero F's given version of yourself. You know what I'm talking about, okay? Like, hello, where the heck are you coming from, and who invited you to show up today, right? You're like, who is this person? You're like, what? This is crazy. So I've been able to categorize it as this Hulk, but in the female version, this Hulk stress. And if you're breaking it into Hulk stress, it's stress, right? So this intense, like ravishingly, like out of control, zero F's given version of yourself. You're like, hello, where did you come from? I didn't even know you existed in me, but okay. So I know you know what I'm talking about. That is pretty much how I can define what emotional hunger is. It's intense, it comes out of nowhere, and you are literally transformed. Not in a desired way either, okay? So give a little thumbs up if you know exactly what I'm talking about. Not being shy here, I can totally identify, and I've already given it that. I already have a student, and I have a couple students, and they've named theirs, so they have little alter egos, and they have their name of this, like, you know, like, wow. Especially if you've gone and see Avengers, you know what I'm talking about, that, like, segment. So I'm talking about that full-out transformation. Where the heck did this segment of me come from? When this chick comes out, or dude comes out, get out of the way because stuff's about to go down, okay? So I'm talking about, so I wrote a blog post the other day on the Facebook, and I said, emotional hunger. Emotional eating is the behavior of emotional hunger. So it doesn't always necessarily have to be emotional eating. It can be emotionally drinking, any form of substance abuse where you're seeking things outside of yourself to fill out that, almost like you're feeling this emptiness or this void, and you're just, it's intense, and you need something for instant gratification, for some form of self-soothing, for some form of relief, right? Because these emotions are intense, all right? At a meter of 0 to 10, this is like 100. So specifically, it can be any form of substance, but I'm talking about like stuff's about to tear up. I used to like frickin' whatever was in my home, granola, dried fruits, chocolate, cookies, gelato, wine, pizza, dairy, like anything in the house would be torn up, okay? So really anything that I was able to just like go crazy with, then that would be destroyed. So, if you know me and you've been following me for a while, if you know me personally, I do like to make light out of the dark stuff, out of the intensity of things. I try to joke, but in all seriousness, it's intense. It's an intense craving, and it's known as emotional hunger. So that's what emotional hunger is. It's not really a mainstream word, but I do want to bring awareness to it. Emotional hunger, I've been able to condensify it. It's an intense, out of control craving for something to self-soothe, an intense triggered emotion. We all have emotions, and some actually get activated, turned on, and triggered, and then the desire or craving for whatever substance of choice that you're using for relief to self-soothe was conditioned, right? And it gives you that whatever you're looking for. So whatever you're truly hungry for, it's not really satisfying the need. In other words, it might be, like I said, emotional eating is the behavior of emotional hunger. And so, for example, food, alcohol, drugs, or any other form of stimulants are the conditioned tools to self-soothe this intense emotional pain. It's intense. So I want to be specific on what is a craving, all right? I like to not assume words or say words, but actually identify, okay, like what does this actually mean? For emotional hunger, I gave my own kind of condensed interpretation, but definitely dive deeper into that. So a craving is just really, it's an intense desire and or wanting for something. It comes out of nowhere, and it's intense. In my Craving Crusher course, I teach an easy way on how to identify the difference between emotional hunger and physical hunger. For example, physical hunger is something that gradually works its way into that starving mode. So it's usually after maybe you skipped half a day before eating, or you've just been so preoccupied by the time you know it, you're really hungry, but it's built its way up. Emotional hunger kind of like punches you in the face. It comes out of nowhere, and it is intense, it is starving, and it needs to be fed like now. So that's what I mean, is like that Hulk where you're like, whoa, and you have zero control. It is intense. So the whole point is learning how to reclaim control over that segment of you. So if you've seen Avengers, the Hulk, the Doctor gains more control over that emotional space, and it's not so much out of control. It can be triggered and expanded at any time. The whole point is not learning to, everybody talks about eliminate cravings forever. Cravings are not eliminated. You just reclaim control, and they don't control you anymore. You anticipate them, and you don't go there. You know when they're starting to be brought to the surface, and you have other tools of self-soothing and finding relief versus sabotaging your success, sabotaging your body goals, and numbing yourself and staying in this cycle, right? So self-sabotage, I had a discussion with this with a student coaching session yesterday. Everybody uses this word self-sabotage. It's so mainstream, and trust me, I was using it for a very long time as well. And then I realized words are just kind of like umbrellas to some form of an underlying equation, right? So self-sabotage is really a triggered emotion plus a conditioned behavior, which equals an instant gratification, which equals a feel bad or like a staying stuck like end result. So the pattern is reoccurring, and there's no moving out of it, because what needs to be addressed is taking that toolbox of that conditioned behavior and allowing it to be dumped, but it can't just be dumped and emptied, right? Because it eventually needs to get filled with something, and if it's not filled with something of either of something of equal or greater value, so giving you that form of relief, it's then going to be refilled with that same conditioned behavior that did serve you on that subconscious level. So the key, in which I teach this in my course, in my Cravings course, and many of my other courses, but specifically in this Cravings course I want to bring awareness to, is we replace it with other tools that are in alignment so that you can move through, reclaim control over this Hulk stress, or whatever you want to call this alter ego name of this intense emotion, which will equal you out of that cycle of reoccurring self-sabotage, or as my soul mom, my mentor, Aquarian Age, always says, the self-saboteur. So just, I hope that made sense. So give a little thumbs up if it made sense. Give a little heart if you're like, whoa. Drop a little comment below if you learned, if you're like, have some insight on that. All right, so we go over all this in the course. It's really, really powerful. And I usually don't bring this mainstream. I only specifically work with this with my private students, but it's so powerful, I just have to share it and offer you something super special. So having an intense craving pop up out of nowhere and strong, it's not about the food. It's about another deeper need. There are many layers to cravings that have nothing to do with food or alcohol or whatever it is that you're using of that substance that isn't being fulfilled, needs to be filled up, right? So today I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of tips and some powerful breathing exercise that I use to keep this Hulk stress under control. And I'm also going to be sharing with you some my newly released course, and which it's the Craving Crusher course, but I'm going to probably rename it. It's really the untold truth about cravings, or the solutions to cravings, whatever you want to name it. It's all about cravings and the multiple levels of them. And I'm going to take you through an inside on the other side of the course. So you're going to be able to see that side as well. So here we go. So, and also some special bonuses that I'm going to be offering. There's just crazy. Okay. So that emotional hunger, and the best way I can describe this intense sensation is about the Incredible Hulk. So you're probably curious about now, like, okay, well, how am I able to get this thing under control? Like, how are you able to get this under control? I was 60 pounds overweight. I struggle with severe binge eating disorder. I know all about this side. It controlled me. I lived it for many, many years, even while being in the fitness industry and being a fitness professional. So it was just so simple once I figured it out. I'm just kidding. It wasn't simple. I wish I had known this information a long time ago, but after many investments, many coaches, many courses, many certs, many years, many hours of never giving up and knowing that there was a solution, and falling and getting back up and falling and getting back up. I think the greatest thing I always wanted to encourage you, and as you see, as you've been following me here, is like, regardless, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do your best, and every time it's going to get a little bit better. You're going to get a little bit better. At least just show up, okay? Show up and try your best, and you will be successful eventually. So why not allow somebody who's been on the other side to fast track you, and so just be able to share this with you. So the good news is I have a couple strategies that I want to share with you to regain control over emotional hunger, and some of the things that the multiple layers that we have with cravings. Look, we all have triggers. Everybody has a trigger. The difference is that the people that are successful and they seem like they have it all together, they have different tools than you have. And they're using those tools, and they're using them frequently. And that's really the only difference, is the toolbox. Okay, so your cravings are really your body's natural way of trying to communicate with you. And it's a much deeper need that has nothing to do with any form of substance that can ever fulfill it. The goal is to lean into your cravings and not try to eliminate them, because you never will be successful that way. So you have to lean into them and understand them and know what it is that it's trying to communicate with you. and really how to get on your own winning team. It's very important where, you know, like I talked about in a couple live streams, where we have our physical body, we have our mind, and we have our emotional space, and of course our spiritual space. But those three main things, if we just focus on the physical, the mental, and the emotional, sometimes they can be going in three different directions. So the goal is to get all three on the same team and to be on your team, on a winning team, all right? So the goal is to learn how to understand what your cravings are trying to say to you. And yes, it is its own form of language. It is a communication system. I was so thrilled and relieved when I found this out. And then once I broke them down, I was able to be like, oh my gosh, like it's just like a really, like a baby. It's like it's like a baby screaming and crying and kicking because it has a need that has not been met and it doesn't know how to speak or communicate. And so that's kind of like a segment of ourselves that we have kind of throwing a temper tantrum. So we just need to understand what those needs are. And that's really what cravings are all about. It's us trying to communicate with us, if that makes sense, okay? So your emotional hunger really is that. It's like, you know, getting on your own team. So 3 steps to regain control over this Hulk stress. Okay. Number 1, acknowledge and recognize that your cravings are a form of communication system, that there's a deeper level and a need being expressed in an intense way, like throwing that tantrum, okay? Just like a little baby, and it's screaming and crying because, I don't know, maybe it pooped its diaper and it's tired of sitting in shit. So it's kind of like the same thing. Like, aren't you tired of sitting in your own shit? Aren't you tired of getting in your own way? Don't you want to lift up that segment and move forward already? Lift up that label that you've given yourself of, I keep self-sabotaging yourself, but it's not your story anymore. It doesn't have to be your story anymore, okay? So we lift it up and we move through it, change the diaper, get all cleaned up, and move on, okay? So that's kind of like what a craving is, all right? So just identify with that. And then also become curious about it versus judging yourself about it. A lot of times we beat ourselves up like, oh, I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not strong enough, I suck, I'm this and that. Like, just become curious. Clearly there's something deeper going on. Emotional hunger is an undesired conditioned behaviors. They're very, very common with most of us. The key is to learn how to replace the undesired way of handling that emotional hunger with new tools that no longer sabotage your body goals, okay? So one of the segments, which I did put in this newsletter, so leave a comment below if you want to receive it with your email, or you can go over to www.tanyasilva.com, and make sure you spell the name right, Tanya, Silva, Silva.com. And it just calms the state. You have a vagus nerve that runs behind the throat, and it controls hunger and thirst. And so maybe if you've ever had the experience where you all of a sudden are like so hungry or starving, and you're eating a meal, and you're eating with anxious energy, you're eating with intense energy, you're eating with this stressful energy, and you are not full. You're still hungry, even though you don't feel satisfied or fulfilled after you consume your meal. You've just activated that vagus nerve, and so that really controls that segment, which controls your hunger hormones. And, that's why it's very important that your breath controls the rate at which your heart beats. And so if your heartbeat has this anxious, intense energy, your heart's going to be pulsing really fast. So when you can control your breath, which is in this newsletter, I show a breathing exercise on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is youtube.com/Tanya Silva. Tanya Silva. And I show an exercise where it's a nozzle breathing. So you inhale and you exhale and exhale. And I learned this over at Anatara the yoga studio over at Anatar in Delray. That's like my home, my shala, and we do that a lot over there. But there's another breathing exercise where if you want to count to 10, so if you inhale, and you can put your hand on your heart, because the moment that, and do it with me, the moment that you put your hand on your heart is the moment that you completely instantaneously calm your entire nervous system. So there's an energy that's projected, it's electromagnetic energy, and that connection between the hand and the heart completely calms down the nervous system. And controlling the breath with it, so when you're breathing, you don't want to raise your shoulders, keep the shoulders down, and lift through the heart. So breathe oxygen in, and exhale. So what I want you to do is work your way up to 10 breaths. If it's too much, because a lot of us don't breathe enough, and sometimes I get so excited with these live streams, I'll talk really fast, blah, 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 but then eventually I'll start to calm and settle into them, and I'm sure that's going to eventually, I'll get better at that as well. The more that I practice, the more that I'm on here sharing with you guys. But if you breathe in, even if you do it for a count of 4, inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, pause, exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then work your way up to 5, and then work your way up to 6, and then eventually work your way up to 10, and then you'll notice how you create this calm energy. And this calms the nervous system, creating greater food satisfaction when you're eating, and a lot of times you're not even going to get into that emotional hunger. But what I'm talking about, this is a very, very intense thing. It's like something possesses over you and is like, whoa, like you don't even exist anymore. This like Hulk stress comes out, okay? So, or the Hulk if you're male. All right, so that vagus nerve is a nerve that runs behind the throat, and it controls hunger and thirst. When your triggered emotions go off, you're feeling that intense sensation that you're going to go out, like be unleashed, right? So try this exercise. You can try one of 2. The other one's on the YouTube channel. This one I just showed you. Just a counting rhythm. Work your way up to 10. And then also step 3 is seek out solutions. There's always a solution, okay? There's always a solution. There's always a solution. Hint, hint. I'm going to show you this craving course that I created. It's amazing. I created it 2 years ago, but I never released it to the public because I've always worked on it with my students. I don't release things unless I am certain that people will get results. Of course, when you put in the work. So this stuff works. There is no more missing pieces. A lot of times I think that everything is an equation and there might be a piece missing, but there's no more missing pieces. I've added a lot of stuff in here, and it's really a new release course. I'm running it. We're going to start on the 20th, but if you get this course before May 1st, you're going to get it for $149 and also a coaching session with me. All right, that's valued at $250, so that's already more than the course. And on top of that, I have an entire travel ebook, everything you need to know about traveling to not go crazy when you're traveling. It's a lot of mindset. It's also preparation and tangible tools, as well as my ultimate body goals ebook. And so that's really, really powerful as well. I'm going to show you right here. This is the 5-day craving course. We start on the 20th, and everything is self-study. It's in a course. These are some of the things that we're going to cover. It's 5 main parts, and we're really going to condense it. You can watch it as many times as you want. You also, right now I'm in the process of creating the entire ebook. So you'll also have 3 ebooks, a coaching call with me, and this course. Leave a comment below if this is what you want. I'll also drop the link below as well. So this is the untold truth about cravings. A lot of these things I had to really dig deep with. First is it's like a layer, okay? So there's a physical side to cravings. You talk about sleep and hormones, right? Leptin, ghrelin. These all are your hunger hormones, as well as insulin, and getting, instead of your insulin levels being like a roller coaster, we create stability, because that also affects cravings. So you have the physical side. Then you've got eating real food versus eating fake food, program cheat, treat, and refuel meals and why they don't work and what you can do instead of them to experience food freedom. Also, the difference between food satisfaction versus never feeling satisfied. We touched a little bit on that, talking about the vagus nerve and how it can be stimulated and also calmed a little bit. And also waiting too long to eat, insulin imbalances, nutrient side charts, more the physical deficiencies, like when I'm craving X, this is what you're really craving or you're deficient in, all that type of stuff. Part 2 is going to be the emotional side to cravings. So we're going to be speaking more along the lines of, let me move this over a little bit. Oops. Can you see this? Sorry, it is, I didn't realize you can't see it. Here we go. Okay, perfect. So the emotional side of cravings, stress and emotions like guilt, depression, and anxiety, and how those trigger. I love, there's a book by Deepak Chopra, What Are You Hungry For? And he talks a lot about different segments of, there's 6 steps of communication, as we mentioned, learning how to communicate with your cravings. And also I have a very special interview that was an hour long where I got to interview my mentor and my coach. I worked with her for 3 years. We worked on shadow work, Aquarian Age. She is on Facebook, and I'll tag her as well. And she's also has a site, aquarianageawareness.com. She's amazing. She's a shadow worker, a light worker, and definitely the queen of overcoming self-sabotage. So check her out. Also, Cravings Part 3, we're going to talk a lot about willpower. What is willpower? Self-discipline, self-control. I'm going to give you some things that even come from scripture. The conflicted mind. That's also part of the holiday book. I might throw that in there as well because the holidays are right around the corner. Well, they'll be around the corner before we know it. I did an interview with Dr. Nina, and she talked a lot about willpower, and we did about an hour interview on that. So you'll also have access to her. And identifying, do I even really want to change? Where we talk about our attachments to things, right? And a lot of times we say we want to change, but we're actually subconsciously attached to things, and that's why we don't move forward. And there's a worksheet on that. And also Cravings Part 4, we're going to talk a lot about solutions and new tools. Identifying your triggers, that's the first step, awareness, acknowledgement, and how to bounce back from setbacks, like instantaneously. When you fall off track, how to get back on very quickly, like literally within an hour or less. Identifying the emotions that trigger you, maybe pressure, overexhaustion, creating your own toolbox, and creating distractions, healthy distractions, so that you can give yourself that space for that, to reclaim control over that Hulk stress, over that emotional hunger, like breath work, EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. It's a tapping methodology that is an acupressure, and it calms the nervous system as you allow yourself to process emotions so they don't get cellularly stored, cellular imprints. Also different segments of exercise, food, sleep schedule. And then also extra, we're going to talk a lot about food memory and attachment. These are things that people do not talk about, and yes, there are things that we just don't know because we were never taught it, but these are the deep rooted things that, you know, that it wasn't just me eating healthy and working out that allowed me to overcome these food addictions and self-sabotage and releasing 60 pounds of unwanted weight. This was deeper work. This was really working with the mind and understanding, lifting resistance, letting go of attachment, so that I can move forward and get out of my own way. And just identifying the things that bind us and keep us stuck. And also identifying, wait a second, is my environment holding me back? Are my friends' energies are like intensifying my cravings and triggering this Hulk stress? So as I also mentioned, you're going to get one-on-one coaching with me, valued at $250, ebook on the Traveler's Guidebook and the Ultimate Guide to Weight Release. And I'll probably throw in the holiday survival guide for you guys because I already mentioned it. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed today's live stream on the difference between emotional hunger and cravings, and learn a couple little strategies in between. I'll drop the link below and just leave a comment If you want this in your inbox every Monday at 7:45, make sure you subscribe, www.tanyasilva.com. I hope you have an amazing Monday night, and I'll talk to you soon.